Call the roll. Riley?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
Schmidtke?
Present.
Wilder?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
Budney?
Present.
And our ex-officio member, Ted Van Ouse. Ted? Like a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Are there any corrections, changes to the agenda? Is there support?
Support.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Next, we have, I'd like to make just a formal welcome to Jim Nelson, who's the newest member to the commission. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you for having me.
And so I know you sat in on our last meeting, so appreciate your willingness to serve.
Learning curve is, I'm getting there.
Good. Also, the next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of our February 12th meeting. Everybody's had a chance to look at the minutes. Any comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So, go ahead.
So moved.
Second.
Move supported that the minutes of our February 12th meeting be approved as distributed. And you're going to abstain because you were not here.
That's right.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda are the vouchers, which are found on pages 9 through 15 of our packet. These are the expenditures that the Department of Public Services, water, sewer, refuse, roads, drains, and so forth, experienced. Any questions or comments? If there aren't any questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and supported that the vouchers be approved as distributed. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Vouchers are approved. We have end of the year statement of revenues and expenses through March, and we usually receive and file this information. If anybody has any questions, it looks in order to me, as this is the final month of the year, fiscal year report. Any questions? If not, we'll receive and file the statements. Finally, number 8 is approval of the treasurer's report, found on pages 21, 22 of your packet. Any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Is there support?
I'll second it.
Moved and supported that the treasurer's report for March be approved. If there's no further discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. So we move through the beginning portions of the agenda. Next, we have the manager's report. Barry, item number 1 is Park Lane Water Main Loop and the estimated construction costs. Barry?
Yes, good evening. I had to switch places here. My mic is not working. The first item, yes, is the Park Lane Water Main Loop. At the last meeting, if you'll recall, we had some discussion about closing that dead end that's on Park Lane near Horse Mill. So I he asked me to put together a cost estimate to have that completed, and you have that in front of you. The cost estimate is $116,298.93, and that's to that's to install approximately 620 feet of 8-inch water main that will continue north on Park Lane to Horse Mill and tie in at Horse Mill.
Okay, so we have the estimated cost. This appears later on our agenda for approval of the extension. The one question that was outstanding, and I talked to our Township Finance Director earlier today, Ann Darzniak, and Ann is present. And Ann, can you tell us what the fund balance is for water main construction? You indicated it was in the $300,000 range.
That is correct. We have had bonds over the last years, and we haven't spent them, and the balance remaining is $330,000.
330? So besides that fund balance, there is no fund balance for water. So as we talk about water projects, certainly we can do this one. And I know we talked about another one as we did our road tour earlier today. a much smaller job. So we have to keep in mind that of what resources we have available from a fiscal standpoint. So we'll receive the report at this moment, and then under our action items, there's a motion to proceed with that project. So the next item, Barry, is Meridian Water Main and Survey and Design.
Yes, and also at the last meeting, you asked me to get with the CE Rains company and get an estimate to do the survey and design for the Meridian Road water main replacement, and that would run from Bridge Road to Grow Road. And the cost for performing the survey and design on Meridian from Bridge Road to Grow Road, including the section on Keith, is $273,809. The estimated construction cost before the contingency is approximately $4,563,488.
And we've talked about this project before, and we do not have the money in place to proceed with the replacement of the water main. I think that we asked for this because the thought was perhaps we could start the engineering, at least have some of the engineering put in its place. So given the fact that we only have $300,000, we will, I'd like to just suggest as we talk about an additional item under the action item, under the budget, that we bring this issue back for our discussion purposes and talk about to what extent we want to get started. So keeping in mind that we just authorized up to $116,000 for the water main on Park Lane.
Mr. Chairman, I just got a quick question for Barry. Can you enlighten me on the section on Keith? It's not all of Keith, it's just...
It'll be Keith from where it goes off of Meridian, and it goes west and swings around and comes back to Horse Mill. That's an old section of pipe in there also.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions to Barry at this point? I guess one that just popped in my head. It would be possible, of course, for us to, this goes all the way to Grow. We could authorize some engineering to begin from the north end of the project to, say, Macomb or some other arbitrary street to at least get something started. But
Sure.
I don't know if we want to start it until we have the funding in place or not. So
No,
there may be other small projects that might arise between now and then, too. So something to consider. We don't have to approve it necessarily tonight. We can talk about it for the future. All right, consider item number 3, seasonal shut-off policy.
Yes, I've received a few phone calls. I get them periodically, and people are questioning our policy on the seasonal water shutoffs. And what their complaint is they have to pay us to turn the water off at their house in order to stop all of their services. The policy we have right now says that if you don't want to pay for trash pickup when you're in Florida for the winter, you have to have the water turned off, and then everything stops. As long as the water is turned on by us to that house, even if you're not there, you pay for your trash pickup on a quarterly basis, just like you would if you were there. And that's a policy that's been in place here in the township for many years. But every once in a while I get a call, and the last gentleman that called me, I told him I would bring it to the commission for discussion. But that's the policy that we have. People want their services to stop in the wintertime when they're not at home, so the only way we can do that technically is to turn the water off at the street. And Les probably can shed some light on that. He's familiar with that. Been around a long time.
So in this particular case, the resident that spoke with you about it didn't want to shut his water off.
No, what he wanted was he wanted his water to stay on, yes, but he wanted the trash services to stop.
So if, technically speaking, if the water remains on, we don't have the ability to go police to see whether anybody's remaining in the residence
No,
and setting out trash.
we don't.
It's actually interesting because it helps the homeowner. Part of it, as Bill points out, is self-policing. So that allows for sort of a a review of whether they're really there or not. Some people might come back and forth a few times, more than a few times. But the other thing is, think about it. If the man's water's turned off and he's in Florida for 3 or 4 months when it's really cold, pipes break. And what you're really doing is you're really helping the guy out, so then there's no water damage. It's very similar to if houses are vacant for whatever reason, sometimes with mortgage situations, water gets shut off, then there's no water damage. So it really does help the man out.
You're exactly right, because we have had that happen. A person's going to go to Florida. They called and said, we're going to Florida, but we don't want our waters turned off for whatever reason. Have hot water heat or something like that they need water for. They left the house. The pipes did freeze and broke in the house. And when he came home and found that he had a mess to clean up, and he also had about a $3,000 water bill. And he wasn't happy about that either. So you're right, John. You're protecting them to a degree. If you turn the water off, nothing's going to happen in that house as far as a leak goes that's going to hurt anything. So it does pay
Well,
in
the
that.
question you're asking us is, do we want to change the policy?
Do you want to change the policy? Yes.
Is there anybody here that is troubled by the current policy and would like to see a change? Phil?
Mr. Chairman, just a question. Barry, what does it cost to have it turned off and turned back on? Is there a charge?
Yes, there is. It's $50.
Each way, round trip? Or?
No, it's a $50 one-time charge.
Thank you.
Any further follow-up on that, or? Okay. Are there any comments? Does anybody want to see a change in the policy? If not, we'll move on to the next item. Hearing no...
Motion on that?
I'm sorry?
You need a motion on that?
No, there's no change.
No, it's just he's bringing a report to us, and unless somebody wants to see a change, we'll just move on to the next item.
No, it's worked all the years that I was there.
So we'll leave the policy in place.
Okay.
It's just too hard to police, and that's another side of it is you have to have somebody actually watching now.
Yeah.
And chances are we're not even going to know whether or not. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I think it just needs to stay where it is.
Okay. Good.
The next item 4, styrofoam recycling reconsideration.
Yes. Right now, and it started 4 or 5 years ago, we started collecting styrofoam to recycle, and we collect it down at the DPW maintenance facility. People bring it in down there, and we store it in a shed until we get enough quantity-wise to fill up a dump truck, and then we haul it out to the recycle center in Ann Arbor. When we first started doing this, we had a resident volunteer that would haul it out there for us, and all we basically did was pay his gas money to go back and forth. That was discontinued because his circumstances changed and he could no longer do it. So right now what we're faced with is we're collecting styrofoam. Some of it comes to us clean, some of it comes to us not clean. And we have to sometimes sort through it to determine what's acceptable and what isn't. They will only take clean styrofoam. They won't take anything that's got food on it or anything anything but clean. And what I'm faced with right now is we collect probably a dump truck load a month, and we have to load it up, take our manpower, load it on a dump truck, haul it out to Ann Arbor, and it takes one man in a dump truck probably to load it and haul it out there and come back a half a day. The cost of that trip is probably a minimum of $150, $200 to make that trip. And it's just not cost-effective to do that. And I thought it behooved me to bring it to the commission to at least let you know what we're faced with down there and see if we want to continue collecting it.
Well, under a recycling contract, Waste Management, they do not collect
No.
styrofoam.
No, they do not.
I've looked at this situation, and really, one thing that bothers me about it as chair is that people are bringing in unclean styrofoam, and most of the styrofoam I know our family comes in contact with is if we buy a meal out and it's leftovers or whatnot. I don't think your department should be going through that, but at the DPW facility, you're down to 3 full-time employees with the cutbacks of recent years?
2.
2.
2 field staff people.
So the question then is, does this commission want to continue that, or should we change that? I feel that for the nuisance that it is, we have a tremendous recycling program. People in the community are very active with recycling, with our recycling bins, so I think we do a good job there. But this little nuance, I don't think we have the staff to do this, and neither should we have to put up with it. So right now, the recyclings are stored in a shed that we store our lawnmowers in. And when I went there the other day, here's this big pile of recycling of styrofoam that would be loaded into a dump truck. So opening the discussion and see what your wishes are.
Mr. Chair, I agree with you. I think it's something that it just isn't feasible to do anymore from so many angles. The cost, the manpower, also, and correct me if I'm wrong, Barry, but people don't necessarily always come and drop off the styrofoam where it's supposed to be. They'll drop it within the yard someplace.
Yeah, most people will bring it and set it out in front of the door, in times when we're not there and the gate's open. And I have to say, most of the people probably do their diligence to make sure that the material's clean when they bring it, but there's a lot of it that isn't. We put it we put it all in plastic bags, and we put it in the building, and sometimes, especially in the summertime, we'll go out there to haul it out, and it's starting to smell. Some of it's been in there so long. I've contacted the recycle people who actually recycle the styrofoam to see if there was anything they offered in the line of a container or something that they could bring out to our facility and drop it off and pick it up periodically, and they don't. They don't perform that service.
Yeah, I think it's time, that we need to stop this, because we just can't really afford to continue to do it.
I have one question, Mr. Chairman. What does Trenton do with their styrofoam? Do we know?
No, I'm not sure. I don't know what they do.
I'm just thinking, if we could all go out there on a truck with another city or something like that, if people would share those services, it might be a way to keep doing it, but it's not my for death.
Is there anybody around here that does recycle the styrofoam besides us?
Not that I know of, Les. There may be, but not that I know of.
Can anybody, or is anybody aware of crushability of that stuff? Can you crush it? Is there a commercial application that crushes it? Because the volume is the problem with the styrofoam. I wonder if there's a machine that crushes that stuff.
I couldn't tell you. But you're right, it is bulky material. I mean, you can imagine.
It would seem to me that an interesting approach would be check with a couple other cities.
Mr. Chairman, if you're looking for a motion,
I am.
I would make a motion that we discontinue our recycling of the styrofoam.
Second.
Okay, you've heard the motion to discontinue the recycling of styrofoam program. I would ask the maker of the motion perhaps at the end of this month.
Sure.
And, the commission has looked at this issue, and we've talked about it. It's really a cumbersome issue. Is there any further comments, questions? Are you pointing to Mr. Woody? You're welcome to come up to the podium.
Woody Clark, Parkland. So what do we do, cut it up and put it in the black bag?
Well, how do we do it, Barry?
Some do. Some just put it in black garbage bags and bring it in.
Oh, you mean, I thought
I don't mean that. I mean, you take it to the street. If you're going to discontinue it,
Set it out in your normal trash and they'll pick it up.
will they take it? You said that they wouldn't take it.
They don't recycle.
They don't
recycle.
Yes, they don't
Okay, so we can take it to the road.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, if there's no further questions or comments, we have a motion to discontinue the program. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we're going to discontinue at the end of this month.
The next item is just to let everyone know, if they don't already, that yard waste pickup began April 1, so people can start setting their yard waste out, like I say, if they haven't already. The next item is that there's going to be a Household Hazardous Waste Day on April the 13th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Redford Public Services Building at 12,200 Beach Daily in Redford. You can go online on the website. We have all of the information on there as to what they'll take and what they won't take, but this is a Wayne County-sponsored household hazardous waste collection on Saturday, April the 13th. On May the 11th, Trenton, Gibraltar, and Grosse Ile are going together and doing a scrap tire and electronics recycling event, and that's going to be held the same place it was last year, and that's at the Kennedy Ice Rink on West Road in Trenton. You can take automotive, scrap tires, any electronics, computers, stuff of that nature, and it's going to be held Saturday, May the 11th. And there was some talk about, and I got to check this further, but there was some talk about at the same time holding a shredding event where people could bring some materials that they wanted shredded, and they'd take care of it at that time, but I don't have all the details on that yet. But that's going to be May the 11th right here in Trenton.
Okay.
Item number 8 is the chip sealing. You recall at the previous meetings there was quite a bit of discussion on putting a chip seal on the roads. We further discussed that. I'm going to call Monroe County as they invited us down to take a look at their roads that are chip sealed. I'm going to contact them this week or next, set up a time in which the members of the commission that would like to go down and observe some of their chip seal roads. I'll make that happen for you. So that concludes.
Very good on that. We see in the audience we have the Honorable Jack Delphi, who was a member of this commission for a long time, and Jack was responsible for a lot of the road maintenance work over the years, the last couple decades, so nice to see you, Jack. One of the things that we started talking about a year ago, and with Wayne County, we talked about the possibility of using a chip seal approach. Are you familiar with that? And for the audience, that's where you lay a layer of an asphalt sticky material on a road. Let's just take like Ferry Road, and then you put a chip, stone chip, over it. A lot of communities have been using it successfully, and based on Barry's research, we've been told that you can do a mile of that for under $20,000. You do have to do some base repairs first if you have some sections that have potholed or whatever. But so we're going to go take a look at what Monroe County's done, and I think Wayne County may even go with us. We talked to Wayne County about the possibility, and they have indicated they would be open to looking at it. We're thinking of experimenting with it maybe this summer, maybe on Ferry. We'd have to talk to the residents first, maybe on Bellevue, not sure. But we're studying some alternatives to see what we can do to preserve our roads. So we're going to give an update again on that a little later on in the agenda. We had every year this commission takes a road tour. We spend a couple hours on the road driving various roads to the township and looking at how we came through the winter with potholes and broken sections of concrete, and in some cases some concrete slabs that are sinking for unknown reasons, asphalt deterioration. Then we put together a priority list. Our township engineer went with us today, and we're going to develop that list, and then at the next meeting hopefully have cost estimates associated with it, and proceed this summer with a couple $100,000 worth of improvements for our roads to do some major repairs. So this chip seal came up as a novel way that maybe we could make some inroads, and it's a good protective coating. And in addition to that, we also talked about tying in with the Downriver Community Conference. A couple communities have taken bids to do some crack sealing. So we're going to, and Jack, I know that you spearheaded the crack sealing program for years, and so we thank you for that. That helps preserve the roads too. So we're looking at both those options. So I guess that's enough on that for now. And are there any discussion, there's no discussion items other than what's on the agenda. Action items, we have Tim Rooney here as our Director of Parks and Recreation for the township. Tim's going to make a presentation on some drain requests that his commission and interest would like to see accomplished. Tim? We all have copies of the report. We all have copies of your report, Tim.
Okay. Well, thank you for having the Recreation Department tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before the DPS. As you know, since the creation of the Recreation Department in the late 80s, we pretty much evolved by cooperating with different community groups. When the Rec Department first started, we had a budget of about $76,000, and we used churches, schools, clubs, and the community really supported the Recreation Department as we began to develop services and programs. And then as we got through the proving ground and people started seeing there was a benefit to public recreation, there was the playscape that was developed. We were a new department, but we kind of pitched in with that. And then the purchase of the farm, we were highly involved with that, working with community groups. Like the airport park, you'll see that we work closely with JIRA and GISA and the Nature and Land Conservancy. And when you go through our programs in the program guide and the services that we offer, we're usually partnering with various community groups. We feel that the township resources we have will help the community groups expand their programs and vice versa. I handed out a report from our annual report, and it gets statistics, and on the backside you'll see the different community groups that use the Centennial Farm, whether it's the Herb Society, the Garden Club, all the different sports groups hold fundraisers. In a couple weeks, the Animal Shelter will be having a big fun run there that they raise money with. Water's Edge, we merged with Water's Edge about 8 years ago, and you'll see that there's more rec activities, not talking about golf and pool, but like recreational sports like basketball, volleyball. We want to put in the inline hockey. So what I'm trying to say is we really are a reflection of the community. Almost everything we do kind of comes from that grassroots effort, kind of the bottom-up approach. And the two proposals I have tonight are two of the facilities I just talked about. We have the Centennial Farm. As you know, there's the dog park and then the playground area. And we have some problems with the drainage in that area, and I think you received some pictures on that.
Right.
And then by the Recreation Activity Center, where a lot of those groups hold their fundraisers, we run programs throughout the year, different types of recreation programs. And we're a little tight on money, and we felt that based on our broad cooperation with the community and how much of a resource it is to the various community groups and what it does for the Recreation Department and all those groups, we feel it would be a worthy cause to put some of the drainage fund towards that, and we hope you'll consider that. And what it would be is there's along the east side by the outdoor arena, the rec building where the community groups, we've always had a drainage problem. We've done a lot of improvements over the years since 1988 when the rec department moved there. But there's still a few little areas that are kind of making it miserable at times for the different groups that use it. And then the dog park, probably the first in the Downriver community area, a beautiful facility. Once again, many volunteers support that facility, and it's growing all the time. I think there's some members here tonight if you want to get closer details on that, what they do. We feel that would really clean that area up, and then we have a lot of families that use the playground there and enjoy it. And then when the groups are using it, they also use that entire area. So we're looking for some help there, and we feel that there would be a big bang for buck there because of the variety of people. And then the Water's Edge, we have 2 ponds, and they're used as catch basins. One's on hole 3, which would be on the south side of Bellevue, on the east side by the country club, and then the pond on number 9, which would be on the east side. And that kind of drains that, where the rec area is there, kind of drains that area out. And like I said, I think it'd be very helpful, and it would serve a lot of people in the community. I don't know if I gave you enough detail, but...
Well, we'll ask the commission, but the drain money is for drainage everywhere in the township, and particularly on township-owned land. So personally, I have no problem with using drain funds to help you correct those problems. And we've done a lot of drainage projects which benefit even rear yards, where a number of residents, because of poor drainage, have similar situations. So we'll ask the commission. So thank you for that presentation. Stay there.
Don't go anywhere.
I'd like to open it up for comments from the commission. Questions from the commission.
Mr. Chair, and I echo Mr. Costick's sentiment, and I don't know how many times it's been said, but it can't be said enough how much you, Tim Rooney, as well as the Rec Commission, does for this island. But having said that, I do need to ask you this question. Would it be fair to say that the reason you're here before us is because your budget wouldn't allow you to do this out of your budget?
100%, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
One question on the estimates for the project. I, too, agree that this is a worthwhile project to go through. We have cost estimates for these projects. Are they, how were those estimates come to? I mean, are they just a guess, or those actually been looked at by engineering staff and considered for feasibility and so forth?
Yeah, the Recreation Commission did not want to bring it forward, the administrative staff at all, till we had detail on it to give you, the DPS Commission, something to look at and not just throw a willy-nilly figure out. So yes, the CE Rains, our township engineers, put those costs together for us.
Okay, thank you.
Ron.
Quick question. You've got 3 items on here. Is this in order of priority as far as you're concerned?
Yes. Yep, the dog park and the rec building would be number one. So that Centennial Farm would be number one priority, and then there's the water's edge. There would be other drainage projects, but we're just hoping to somehow maybe get these projects.
The ones that you have listed here, are these in priority as far as you're concerned? In other words, number 1 priority would be the dog park, and number 2 the Centennial Park, and number 3 the golf course?
Yes.
Okay.
Other comments, questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Us?
This is a great idea, but we have a very serious drainage problem on the north side of Grosse Hill Parkway that was created when they put that drain in from the fire department over to Grosse Hill Parkway. My kids grew up over there. I played in that woods, and there was never a lake in there. There's a lake in there that needs to be corrected and drained. And before we spend $38,000 on this, I think that pond that they created in there, and all the trees are dying, that should be corrected. Even the drain is plugged. The new drain that they put in, that's plugged. But all they have to do is put a piece of pipe in or dig a ditch to drain that pond that was never there. You cannot go outside. The neighbors are all complaining to me about it. You cannot go outside in the summertime because you get chewed up by mosquitoes that are coming from that pond. Tony Gray has gone over there and throw dunks in it, but that's like throwing dunks in the Detroit River.
All right, I need clarification on your comment, Les. You're talking about the northeast inner corner of Parkway.
From Grosse Hill Parkway to the fire department.
Okay, that wood's there.
That wood's in there.
A lot of it's underwater.
Yes.
And that's never been brought to this commission before, to my knowledge. And I don't have any idea what the cost would be. I wish you'd have brought it up earlier today so we could have looked at it. If that's a legitimate problem, and I don't know, I haven't walked through there or attempted to, and you say there's a solution just by putting an outlet in?
Yeah, Barry knows what I'm talking about.
Yes, and I think we talked about that last when we were installing it. You were going to put a pipe through there, and you didn't do it.
I get blamed for that. That was a project that was done under Rains's direction.
Right.
And when the contractor finished, instead of hauling the dirt out of there, what he was supposed to do, he bulldozed all the dirt from west to east and made the berm that this water could not drain.
Right, but I may be wrong, but my recollection tells me that there's some wetlands in that particular area that we have to protect. Yeah, I think we did it per the DEQ, because we were told that some of that area up there was wetlands, and we weren't able to disturb it.
It was never wet in there. I can bring my family in here, and I'll tell you, they used to play over there.
I think
And some of the neighborhood kids that grew up in that neighborhood, they said, there's never water in there.
Yeah, I think we constructed that ditch through the approval of the Wayne County and the DEQ, and I think there were some issues up there. I'd have to
Okay,
look into it further to see.
Well, that matter may have to be researched, but I would call your attention to page 22 of our packet, which was the treasurer's report. I know we've budgeted some of these monies, but we have $1.2 million in our drain fund. And over the years, we've been trying to solve problems as they've come about. And in my opinion, we have enough money in our fund balance for drainage to solve both those problems. I mean, we should be solving problems in the community instead of sitting on these funds and put the monies to good use. That's how I feel about it.
Mr. Chair?
We can have a separate motion, Les, at the end of this meeting to add this project to be looked into by our engineers. I don't mind doing that. But I, for one, don't think it should interfere with the current request. So you had your hands up down here?
Mr. Chair, that's the only point I was going to make, is that has nothing to do with action item before us. It certainly sounds like something we might want to look into and probably should look into, but it should not have any effect on this action item.
That's all I was going to say.
Okay, so any other comments or questions from this commission?
Well, just, if you look at hole number 9 at Water's Edge, that really is one of the nicer holes, or maybe the nicest hole on the golf course. So if you're going to approve that, the residents can enjoy that. I can't see a problem with it.
Okay, so you've had a request. Ultimately, this request would have to amend our budget, because this, I don't believe, was in the budget.
We have other, so it would.
Well, it's, all right, so we would call this, I don't know what I got to reread the resolution. I guess the resolution, we have to make sure under that would also indicate that we are willing to amend our budget to accommodate these projects. So the recommended action proposed that the Public Service Commission approves the funding for the following drainage improvement at public recreation facilities in the amount of $38,400 as outlined in Tim Rooney's report and as presented to us tonight, and that our budget be amended.
So,
Support.
Mr.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
I would request that you change the action item to send it forward to the township board because of this expenditure.
Certainly, that's, all of our actions are advisory, so we're recommending it to the township board.
Okay.
That has to be included. Okay. Thank you. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, can you by saying aye?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carried. Thank you, Tim, for being
Thank
here.
you for your support on behalf
I
of
know
the
that
Community Recreation Commission and Carol's and the people
We're
at
happy to cooperate with you, and I know that there's some people sitting here, at least one gentleman I know, in favor of some of these improvements, a couple. Would you like to speak, or have we satisfied your needs?
Satisfied our needs. I've been volunteering over there at Dog Park for 6 years, and we don't use it. Really less than 2 days a year.
Well, we want the land to be dry, so nothing worse than a waterlogged dog.
wow.
Get a Labrador.
Well, thank you all for being here. You're welcome to stay. We talk about a lot of exciting things, sewers, water, drains, garbage, and things of that sort. So thank you, Tim. And looking out over the audience, we're pleased to say that we have our township manager, Dale Ream, here. So Dale, welcome. I don't know what we did wrong that he's here, but... Okay, thank you. Next item, consideration of DPS budgets. What I ask our great assistant, Lorinda, to do is, I just wanted all of you to have a completed copy of the budgets. So, beginning on page 36, in the attachment, you all have a completed copy of all the DPS budgets. And I thought you should have them so that if we refer to things, and you could refer to things over the years, you'd have the information. So, That's really simply it. There's no action that I was proposing there. Now, I guess we could say that if we add a project or two, eventually, every time we do it, we have to amend our budget if it's not in the budget. And we talked about some
Let's
things.
just talk about that for a minute.
Sure.
I'm not sure what's been done recently, but a lot of times in government situations, they go off budget for one reason or another. And then there's some amendment process once or twice a year. So rather than do every one as it comes along, these are fairly reasonable in scope. So rather than plug that in, that's an administrative thing, once or twice, 3 times a year, whatever. We can amend our budget. I'm sure the township generally goes over budget sometimes, does an interfund loan or whatever they have to do, and then they amend their budget. So that used to be a regular process, and then we could do the same thing here, rather than just keep tacking that on every time.
Yeah, I understand your concern, John, but I don't see it happening that much because most of the road,
Maybe it won't.
most of the road and drain things we're going to do, we have an item in the budget. But what I was thinking specifically is these water main projects that we're talking about, they were not in the budget. The one that we talked about on Martin Lane tonight, when we get that back, and we're not going to have it back tonight, we're going to recommend that it come out of the fund balance for those. In that case, we're going to ask that the budget be amended to move the money from fund balance into the budget, okay? So when we hit those unusual circumstances, and I don't see it happening that often, okay?
That's fine.
Okay. So everybody's got the budget, we'll just move on then with that. Item number 3 is consideration of road drainage, water and sewer repairs. I'll just give a verbal report on that. I gotta find my notes. Today we, as a commission, got in a van and we drove the county roads and looked at road and drainage projects. Along with us was our township engineer, Sahel Sabak of Rains Engineering, and we've given him a list of projects to go out and do the measurements on and to bring back some cost estimates so we can put these in line with what we have budgeted for our annual road repairs. But I will tell you where we are at. I'm just going to mention the projects. I know, Woody, you'll be interested in some of these. And on Manchester, we looked at several slab replacements on Manchester. And then one of the courts off Manchester, it's called Martin Lane. We had water main break there, and they've had a number of water main breaks in that particular court. We're going to look at both the water main replacement across the court, so if we make the road repairs, we won't have to dig them up. We're talking about 100 feet, basically, of water main there. And then we looked at Gray's Drive again. There's a number of problems occurring on Gray's Drive, slab replacements. We looked at Park Lane, Lowry. We looked at the intersection of Burning Bush and Canterbury, where we've had apparently some kind of an underground collapse occurring there. We're going to have to TV inspect the sewer line, storm the sewer line, and repair the road at least 2 of the quadrants of the intersection. At Canal and Horse Mill, where there's some asphalt deterioration, we looked at, I got to read my notes. West River Road in front of West Shore, and then we looked at some drainage improvements at West River Road near Island Estates on West River Road, just north of Island Estates entrance, where there's a drainage problem. And we also learned from the county, and the county was with us today, the civil yard manager, that they've had some problems with the storm drain in that area, so we're going to probably have to TV inspect that. We talked about a budget for chip sealing, a budget for crack sealing, and the Downriver Community Conference that Barry's been active with in the public works arena. Several communities coming together to take bids to do some crack sealing. We're going to look at attaching some onto that program so that we could do some crack sealing on some of our roads. And then this chip sealing I mentioned earlier. We're going to study the chip sealing option and hopefully this year meet with Monroe County and hopefully by the end of the year, and they do most of it in the warm weather, July and August months, look at possibly doing some chip sealing, although we have to meet with the residents on Ferry and maybe Bellevue to see how that works out. And we're going to study those possibilities. Now, even better news, and I know, Woody, you're concerned about this. Last year, we started talking about improvements along East River Road, at Church, the intersection, at Stout, and at Island. All three of those intersections are badly deteriorated. We made a request and adopted a resolution last year that we asked the county to participate in helping us repair those intersections. And I think that was after you came to the commission, Woody, and expressed concern about the condition of Church Road. Anyway, the good news is what we've been told verbally today is that the county is willing to participate with us. Basically, they might do the work like they've done at some intersections as long as we would participate in the costs. So the way we left it today is we delineated the areas that we would repair. So Sabak, our engineer, is going to go back with his crew, and they're going to do the actual measurements of the quantities, come up with a cost estimate, do a little diagram of each repair, or at least like a site plan, the limits of the repair. And hopefully we can negotiate and sit down, and we want to do this within the next 60 days, an agreement with the county, which they've required before when we've jointly done intersections, on the cost participation to repair those three intersections this summer. And since I'm giving the report, let me ask the commission if they have any questions, if I haven't covered anything. So that's an update on what our road trip basically entailed. Did I miss something, or anybody want to comment? I saw you raise your hand. You're welcome to come up to the podium.
What do you call it, Parkland? Are you going to, Wayne County's going to do the work and you supply the asphalt?
Well, the way we did it before, Woody, like there was Church Road and Meridian, Ferry and Meridian, you recall when we made those repairs, we just had a cost-sharing agreement. They supplied, we just participated in the cost. They came in and did it with their crews, and they supplied the asphalt, and we just paid them a certain percentage of the cost.
What about that division off of Park Lane between, was it Lyons and Ferry, Cadillac Square? Cadillac Square, where it's all messed up, and you guys were saving a little bit of money each year. How close are you to...
I'm not familiar with what you're talking about.
LaSalle Court.
Talking about LaSalle Court?
Is that LaSalle Court?
It's off Park Lane?
Off of Park Lane?
Yes.
Okay, that's where...
Yeah, what we discussed Park Lane. We're going to have a meeting in the next 60 days with the residents and talk about options for dealing with that.
Park Lane, but LaSalle Court.
LaSalle Court, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay, all right, because that was brought up last year, and you said you were going to save some money out.
And we set aside $45,000.
Right.
The project cost is about
150 or something, you said.
130, I think it was.
Okay, well...
So we're going to meet with the residents, talk about options for financing the remainder.
Okay, because supposedly it's a real mess. I haven't really looked at it.
Yeah, all the joints have cracked severely.
Right.
And it's been that way for a while.
So you think within this summer, you think that you're going to do something with East River and Church where that's a mess?
We're going to certainly push for it, yes.
That's more important, I think, than Stoughton and Island.
Oh, we agree with you. No, we agree with you. It's absolutely the worst condition on East River.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Delphi.
Jack Delphi, 10321 Loma Circle. Two things. First of all, I wonder if any consideration and priority is given to Church Road, especially from Canterbury to East River Road, which I think is very bad. I didn't hear that mentioned, but...
Well, Jack, we've set up a separate subcommittee, and the subcommittee's going to meet, and we're going to start meeting right away this year. And we're going to try to come up with a plan. You can be you can be a citizen volunteer if you want. As you know, almost nothing within our financial resources that we can do will meet the county's requirements. So we're going to look at alternatives of reconstructing Church Road, and hopefully not touch a tree, widen it, I hope, up to 4 feet, and come up with a plan for financing that we'll bring to the Township Board. Our goal is to have that done before, I would say, before late fall of this year. Come back with a recommendation. I've talked to some county officials about it. The idea is we know we won't comply with their standards. It doesn't mean there's no federal money that can be put into it. We have to replace the water main as well. Church Road needs a total reconstruct, so it's not an eligible candidate for chip seal. It's just so much deterioration on the road. So we're going to come back with a report on that.
Okay, good.
We haven't forgotten it.
Another consideration, and this is part of that too, and also the intersection at East River Road and Church Road, but Sacred Heart will be having their 100th anniversary before too long. I believe 1915 the church was founded, and I think quite a few things are planned by then. And I know it takes a long time to do these things, but I would hope that, especially that intersection, and also something could be done for Church Road before then. Thank you.
Well, I would hope so too, but I would hope that maybe in the year 2015 we can be rebuilding it. We have to find a lot of money to rebuild it.
Not it be segmented, so you do a phase of it if you have a...
Well, we don't know yet. We're going to study it, and I sincerely mean it, that if you'd like to be a volunteer and part of it, we could use your input.
I've ridden around and I looked extensively at what I had, and I'm not sure what your priorities for roads are. It might have changed since you rode around today, but it looks to me like Church Road is probably much worse than East River Road, from what I've seen. It might also about be as bad as West River Road in some segments from the bridge down to Bridge Road. But
well, if we do segments, if we did a little strip here, a little strip there, it wouldn't be a significant part of it. I mean, I think we need to deal with Church Road as a whole, and we are going to work on it this year. Come up with a plan, take it to the county. By the end of the year, our hope is through the Board of Trustees to get approval to do something with it and probably put some kind of an issue before the voters. It's a school bus route, and it's a major road to Sacred Heart, which is probably the largest church on the island in terms of its Sunday congregation, at least. And so hopefully we can generate enough interest to get support for something.
What is the road priorities? What are, let's say, the first 3 or 4? I know you made a list of priorities when the millage was being voted on, but what is the priority? Say the first 3, what are they in order?
Well, we're raising $225,000 a year. Our priority is to spread our money to repair roads all over the township on an annual basis. The worst conditions have to be addressed first, whether it's East River Road. Now, we want to look at our major roads as well as our neighborhood streets, but I don't know if I can give it to you that way. To me, Church Road and East River Road are primary because Meridian's not in bad shape. It's certainly getting in bad shape with all of the expansion joint deterioration that's occurred. But we're looking at several roads throughout the township, and we're trying to treat everybody fairly. Purpose of the road tour, you started it, was to look at what
Mr. Schmidtke started it.
to look at what our worst conditions are and address them first. Church Road is a top priority, so is East River. But we can't fathom that we're going to have enough money. I mean, East River goes for 7 miles. Church Road is 1 mile. So Church Road is a priority. It is a school bus route. It's fallen apart. So to me, that's number 1.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I think I've covered that topic. Is there any further comments on the commission? So I guess we're up to item number 4. Ann, please introduce yourself to the new commissioners, and you have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ann Darsnick, the Finance Director, and I'm glad to be here to actually go over some rates. And I'm giving you a lot of information, and I'm going to go pretty slow, and I'm going to go through it pretty thorough so that the new commissioners can get a grasp of where we're at as far as budgeting and our rates and how we derive our rates. If that's okay with you, I'm going to sit here instead of being at the podium, or what would you prefer?
Yeah, the overhead doesn't work anyway.
Okay. So the first, like I said, I've given you a lot of information. I'm going to jump around, but thank God there's page numbers on here so you can help to follow me. The first couple pages are just going to be general graphs of our revenue and expenditures and what makes up our budgets. As Bill had given you the budgets, they may come in helpful if you want to grab them to kind of help to see where we're at. The first couple of graphs are just simple pie charts. And what it does is basically saying that our total budget is about $5.9 million for the entire Department of Public Works. It is the largest budget of the township. All revenues are derived from rates. It makes it an enterprise fund, and that's what makes it unique, because it truly is derived 99% from rates, and you can see that. It is broken down in 3 sections: water, sewer, which also the sewer also includes the wastewater treatment plant, refuse, and then those are the 3 main sections of the DPW. If you look at our water rates, makes up about 48% of the budget. Sewer rates make up about 28% of the budget, and refuse rate is about 13% of the budget, and prior resources is about 10%. Basically what prior resources are, so we're not collecting enough revenue, we're actually going into fund balance to take care of some of our expenditures. The overall budget has decreased over last year by 0.24%. Okay, and I'm going to go on to the next page. No, page 2, or page 3, I'm sorry. Page 3, again, we're going to go into the expenditure portion of it. Our water expenditures are 49%, the treatment plant is 18%, the sewer is 20%, and the refuse is 13%. Yeah, and then I'll go into the breakdown. I will go, yep, that's my next page. Page 4. So now what we're doing is breaking down every section. Right now, on page 4 is our water. And basically, right now, based on the rate structure and the rate that I'm going to be going over next, currently we are projecting enough revenue to cover expenses on an annual basis. So it is, right now, the water is balanced. Of the water, $885,000 is for operations. The Detroit water cost is $1.1 million. The debt is a little over $700,000, so the debt is actually 25%, and then capital outlay makes up 6% of that. So again, currently, based on the rate structure that I'm going to show you, we will provide a balanced budget for the water section of operations. Any questions on that? I know we always concentrate on Detroit water, but Detroit water makes up 38% of the total budget for the water. The next page, on page 5, is the sewer. On this side, you can see that the total sewer revenue is about 1.7. The total expenditures for the sewer is $2.3 million. So here's where we're going into fund balance, or our rainy day. And we are doing that because incorporated within the budget is the ACO. We have $500,000 projected and included in the sewer. That is coming out of prior year resources. We'd have to raise rates extremely to cover that, and we may or may not expend it, so you wouldn't want to raise the rates to accommodate that because you'd be overcharging, because we don't know what we're going to expend. But it is in there, and in the case that we do have to expend it, we will be expending it out of prior year resources. Does that make sense to everybody? So our current rate structure cannot accommodate that at this time. So if you look at the operations of the sewer, it's just general operations, $822,000. Plant operations is $652,000. Debt, again, is $287,000. And then capital projects, which is a large portion of that, is coming from the sewer treatment plant, because we know that everything over there is expensive, of $528,000. And as you can see, what we are doing is financing internally our capital projects. If we are going out for water mains or sewer mains, our budget can't handle that. We would have to go out for additional financing, pay that down on a debt payment schedule instead of actually taking cash and paying it out there. So if you look, we always talk about our debt. So just our debt payments on our bond outstanding is a little over $1 million. And we need to keep that in mind. That's a huge number.
Before you move on there, on that $500,000, how much, we're taking the entire $500,000 out of capital reserve?
Yes.
Or prior year reserve?
That is correct, yep.
Without that $500,000, we would be balanced.
Short of about $78,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just as a comment toward that, too, we put that $500,000 in there every year. And like Ann said, it wouldn't be fair to raise the sewer rates based on that number. Last year, out of that $500,000 that we had in last year's budget, we only used about $80,000 of it. So that's why you're right on, Mark.
Well, I just think it's important for everybody to understand or to know that now that Barry's woke everybody up, it's important to know that if we get into a situation with the ACO, and if we get into a situation where we're going to have capital expenditures, we're not going to be able to fund it. We're hoping that through diligence with the current programs we've got in place, in the current testing that we're doing, that we can bite a big hunk out of whatever we have to do and fund it ourselves without going into advanced rates or going out for more debt. Because I don't think we can afford any more debt right now.
Can you explain again to everybody what the ACO means and why it's important?
Well, yeah, it's a administrative consent order that the DEQ, number one, our sewage treatment plant on a few occasions a year bypass sewer water into the Great Lakes. And this water is partially treated, and for the most part, from my standing, it's rainwater. From their standing, it's sewer water. And we are restricted. We cannot do that. Now, they're allowing us to operate our plant basically under the consent order if we agree to find and fix the condition that's causing us to do that. And that's what all of this testing's about. That's where we're going from here. We're attempting to find out, is it a problem that we can fix? I mean, is it even fixable, number one? Number two, what is the source of the inflow that we're getting? And once we find all of that out, then we can come up with a real hard number that allow us to move forward to meet the requirements and get the DEQ to go away. That's our ultimate goal here, is no longer needing an administrative consent order to operate our plant, that we're within limits and everything moves moves freely. In the real fly in the ointment here is we spent $50 million to do this, and it didn't accomplish what we wanted it to accomplish. Or at least they feel we didn't accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. So we're in discussion, and it's going to be a huge discussion. We've alerted our attorneys. We're prepared to move forward with legal action if we have to, but we're not going to enter into any agreement. This township and this commission has pretty much given us direction. We're not going to enter into any agreement that we cannot maintain. And we have done that in the past, and we're just not going to do it anymore because it's just not prudent to move forward in that direction. So as soon as we find out what it's going to cost us and where it's coming from and how we can fix it, then we'll try to take a metered approach. It could be a 30-year approach. It could be a 10-year approach. And if we get real lucky, maybe we can find a smoking gun and fix it in a hurry. But that's where we're moving forward with this. But we need to set aside this money because we're going to keep attacking this problem. Like last year, we set aside $500,000, and we didn't get the conditions that we needed for rainfall. We didn't get the conditions we needed for flow. So consequently, we only spent a very small portion of that to do the testing that we've done. That testing is now started back up again, and we're going to continue to look at it. So that $500,000 certainly isn't going to fix the problem, but it's going to allow us to move forward in achieving the goal that we want at the end, and that's to get away from this ACO and the DEQ, because I'm pretty sick of dealing with them. Jim's only been dealing with them for 6-8 months. I know he's sick of it, and until we can come up with the answers, that's where we're going to sit.
Very good answer, Ted.
You know, Ted, if I heard what you said and understood it, we can't assume more debt right now.
Well, we have not gone out. It is my opinion and the opinion of Ann and the rest of the board that we are getting to a position right. We certainly could get more debt. I mean, but we don't want to put the township in a situation where we assume more debt.
And maybe not a lot of debt, new debt.
Right.
And cities that have done that have wound into problems. Just keep bonding everything.
Right.
And after a while, you can't get enough cash flow to pay your bond debts and your other bills that come due.
I mean,
is that kind of what happened in Detroit?
Basically, it is exactly what happened in Detroit, and it's exactly what's happened in all of these communities. They get stressed out on their debt load, and it's very easy. I mean, you can go out, they'll sell your bonds. But the reality is, how much do you want to commit to taxpayers of this community and their kids and their grandkids on paying off this debt? And if you're doing that with a purpose in mind and a result in mind, then by all means move forward. But to this point in time, through this ACO and through the DEQ, we have not had those guidelines. They're just saying, you must agree. I mean, there's money available out there, but if we agree to some of the money that's available out there as a credit to us, then we have to commit to a 3 or 4 year fix on a problem we don't even know what it is. We don't know whether, if we borrow $250, let's say we borrow $1 million to do all this testing and agree to their terms, and at the end of this testing, we see that we have to come up with another $30 million. We only have 3 years to make that decision, or we have to give them the money back. Well, I just do not even do that. Let's fund it while we can fund it, and that's basically what we're doing. When we see what the problem is, then some board, whether it be this board, whether it be 2 boards down the road, are going to have some decisions to make. But let's give them all the details and the facts that they need to make the right decision, because up until this point, that hasn't happened.
First of all, Ted, you'll still be around, won't you?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to live that long.
But the key here, and the thing we're fighting, is they do want us to do things that we don't know if that's even the problem, and we are just saying, no, we're not going to do it. It just doesn't make any sense. And because of the financial position we're in, and it's not that we're in any dire straits, but we don't want to get into any dire straits, we will not agree to start doing things that are going to cost us a lot of money and have no idea if they're going to do anything. And at the end of that period of time of doing those, if it still isn't fixed, they're going to be right at our door saying, no, now let's try this. We're not going to take that approach. We want to know what we're doing. And that's why we're in our discussions with them right now, rather than having signed anything.
Just to take that a step farther, we fully anticipated with the last bond that we floated for our sewer project of 38, 40 million. We fully anticipated that this day would never come. And here it is.
And that's, what, within the last 10 years?
Right. And that's exactly the condition and the situation that caused all of that was the front.
And the state thought it
no sense in throwing money at it. The most frustrating time of
something happened in the city of Detroit.
equal our revenue equals our expenditure to pay for our refuse. Note that, on that note, so the rates were adjusted April 1st. As of last year, if everyone remembers correctly, we did not raise water and sewer rates.
Right.
We chose to correct the refuse portion of it. So just keep that in mind as we continue to go through the presentation. Page 7 is just kind of a history of where we've been over the last 20 years. You can see just it's the blue line is Detroit, how they raised their rates, and the township is in the red, how we raised our rates. So you can just see where that is. And as Ted had stated, we always talk about, oh, we're going to raise our rates as compared to Detroit. It's a small portion of our total budget, as he said. It's not everything. But our rates have been very consistent with Detroit over the last 20 years. Page 8 is just so everyone kind of sees where we are as far as debt. Now, this is just for the DPW and is just principal only. So what we're trying to see is how our bonds, we got water bonds in the blue, sewer bonds in the red, and then our building, just the building of the DPW. So you can see that as of 2018, the township, the DPW building will be paid off, and you can see that after 2020, some of our other debt will start to go down. So there actually is a light at the tunnel, but obviously you know that tunnel's not going to stay there because we have other capital needs that we need, and Detroit and everyone else is stressing infrastructure, and the only way you can pay for infrastructure is through bonding. On page 9, if we look over the years since 1999, we have bonded almost $13 million to cover all the projects that are listed on the left side of the page. There is future bonding projects. We do have $3 million that the board has passed the resolution out there that we are capable of bonding for, and just have not done so with a couple capital projects listed there.
And I just want to clarify that point. Of the $3 million set off to the side, which at one point we contemplated the East River and Byram water mains, included in your bond debt schedule in current debt payments, is that $3 million?
It is not.
It is not in there?
No.
All right.
We would have to raise rates substantially to cover that. If you can look at your budget real quick, when we raised water rates, and like I said, I'll go into the rate structure, increasing water rates as much as 10% only provides an additional $273,000. It's not like it's an abundance of money, and on the sewer side, it's even less. It raises about $162,000. So your average bond payment for, say, this $3 million, I think is like $150,000. So you can see that every time you go with bonds, those bond payments increase very rapidly. Yep, actually, I'm sorry, I think it's on the next page. So we'd have to raise almost 10% to cover the bond payment of $3 million.
Okay.
You can see just how extensive that it is, that it does make a drastic.
All right.
Okay, page 11, 12, and 13 are basically what we get from the city of Detroit as far as their rate increases. Over the last 10 years, we've actually, what has happened, just so you know where I'm coming from, is we usually have Plant Moran do a rate study. It used to cost about $3,000 a year. And so Barry kept poking me, and said, look, we got to go to an AWWA class on how to develop rates. And so we did do that, and actually it enlightened us a lot compared to what other communities and what the standards are in the industry, that we kind of were lacking behind because we kept doing the same thing. So what this is doing, I'm going to show you the way we do rates now and the differences and what we're trying to show on how the rate structure we would like to develop into. And what is happening is Detroit is following the same standards. In the past, we would do our rates totally based on, 90% of our rates were based on usage, was based on consumption. Over the last couple of years, Detroit, and it was always shied upon that we shouldn't charge a stable rate, that it should always be based on how much people are using. And that's what the history has been in the past, and that's the history that we've been using. The industry has now changed, as we can see with Detroit. Detroit is now, when they're providing us with a water rate, they used to provide just based on consumption. They also started to implement a fixed portion, that there is a fixed portion that they're charging and a variable portion. So, like I said, in the past we had a very small service charge, and then we've always based it on consumption, and we always raised our rates based on only consumption. So what the next 3 pages, without getting ahead of myself, what the next 3 pages are 11, 12, and 13, is we get, every year, the Department of Detroit Public Works provides us with a rate calculation. If you can look over the last years, across the nation, or across, people are using less water. And so, therefore, we are buying less water from Detroit. If you look in 2011, we bought 63, millions gallons? I'm just using numbers. In 2012, or 12-13, we're projecting our uses on 58,000, and then on 13-14, the current year, it's 52,000. So we are actually purchasing less water from Detroit. This year, last year, our increase was 10.3% that Detroit imposed on us, and this year it's going to be 4.4%. But there also is, like I said, a fixed charge involved. If you go to page 14.
And I just want to...
Yep.
I know the pages 11, 12, and 13, it's hard to pick out the number.
Oh, I'm basing it...
But the fixed charge from Detroit on a monthly basis on page 11 is, under the cost recovery columns, it's $28,000 a month.
Correct.
And that was the first time they did that.
That was the first time they did
that. And then in 2012-13, that same figure jumped to $41,000 a month.
Right.
And now they're proposing it to be $43,000 a month.
And that's correct.
I just wanted to let you all know. And I don't know if we have to point those figures out to you, or do you see them?
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Nope, that's fine. Kind of keep your finger on page 14. So on 14 and on page 18. So on page 14, this is the way we did it in the past. Currently, if you look at a water bill, our rate is $7.22 for consumption for water and $2.60 for consumption for sewer. Our water maintenance charge is $13.80, and our sewer maintenance charge is $44.10. The maintenance charges, if you look on page 18, so normally in the past, probably in the last 15 years that I've been here, we have never looked at the sewer rate, the maintenance charges, since I've been here. We haven't changed them. So we've always increased the water rate and the actual sewer rate for consumption only. Like I said, we've never touched the service charges. Those numbers have been the same forever. For the sewer charges for the water, it's based on the main size. Right now, if you look down in the last column, it's 1380, 1760, 1962, 2463.
You're talking on page 18.
That's correct. If you look on the last column where it says water service charges. What we've learned in the past is that the AWWA actually has a standard when they're charging the service charge. So like a 5-inch meter would equal 1, and then a 3/4 inch meter would equal 1.1 times the rate. And then it would keep going up. If you look, so it would go up in a proportionate, but it was based on standards. Our rates never followed those standards. In the last 16 years, like I said, those rates have never changed. They've always been the same. If we look at the sewer system, the AWWA also charges those rates based on the meter size. In the past, for Groseal, the monthly dwelling rate for the maintenance charge has remained consistent. It's always been $44.10 for the 15 years I've worked here. And that was what they did in the past. Now they're shying away from that. Now they're saying the AWAA standards should be based on the meter size, and a proportionate rate based on those meter sizes. So in the past, again, I'm repeating myself, that we've always just looked at the rate per 1,000 gallons and never looked or really cared about the meter size. And what the new assumption is that it should be based on the service charges. They're emphasizing more on the service charges and fixed and variable costs than just water consumption itself. Is that making any sense? And I'll continue to go through this. But on page 14 then, so you can see the way we used to do it. If we decide to do it the same way as we did in the past, we would be raising rates approximately 10% per quarter. And that shows you on the one that says effective on your upper right-hand quadrant. So again, here we're going. We're leaving the maintenance charge as is, the sewer maintenance charge as is, and all we're adjusting again is the rates have we done in the past. And if we do that and consistently do that as we did in the past, it's about a 10% per quarter increase. Again, we want to emphasize that we did not raise rates at all last year. And in the bottom part, you can see that the difference is, again, before allocation, I give you that quadrant again, then they have this after allocation adjustment. What it does is adjust the water maintenance, it adjusts the water consumption, so the water maintenance goes up a little bit because they're emphasizing it should be based on a proportionate rate. The consumption actually goes down because the consumption now is based, the water meter is going to be based on, the service charge is going to be based on fixed costs, and I'll go into that. The water consumption is going to be based on variable cost, which makes sense. So you're going to have a fixed cost that's going to cost you to get to your door, and then you're going to have the variable cost that's going to say, okay, how much water are you going to use? So that's going to make the variable portion of your bill. So what I want to do is kind of go to page 19. And what this is doing, no matter how we do it, we have to come up with enough funds to pay for our expenditures.
And I think you have to point out on pages 15, 16, and 17 that there is a listing, or am I
Right, I will, yeah, I'm going to get, let me just go over
Come
these
back to
couple,
that?
yeah, let me just do these next two pages. Is everyone following me? As long as okay. On page, so everyone understands the way we used to do it. We used to just make it balance and then raise the rate for consumption. Now what we're doing is, on page 19, I am taking our budget of the water budget, and I am actually allocating cost based on what is variable, which would be my labor, my operational expenses, and my Detroit portion of the variable costs that they're giving us. Those are my variable costs. My variable costs will now make up my water consumption rate. Now I'm talking about my fixed cost is no matter what, we don't have to do an ounce of water to your house. We don't have to provide water anymore, but we're still going to have those bond payments that will not go away, and we're still going to have the Detroit fixed cost. And that's how we're going to now derive our new metered service charge. So you can see that our meter service charge for a 5/8 main, and we're going to start out that, well, 5/8 main equals 1, equals whatever proportion it is. So our main now is going to be $19.95, and this is based on a monthly, so we have to triple that because I did it all on a monthly basis. And our variable cost now is our water. So now that's going to go down to $5.25 per 1,000 gallons. Is that kind of making sense? And so we're going to go ahead and do that on, go to page 24. So 24, again, basically we're going to do that, go through that same computation. And you can see that our fixed cost, again, which is our bond payments that are going to be paid no matter what. So now our fixed cost is going to be $585, where before they were $44.10 no matter what. So now they're going to be $585 per month for our meter charge, and then our variable cost, so our variable portion of our sewer is going to be up to $4.89. Does everyone get the concept of where we're going on that? So theoretically, no matter what, you don't use any water, you're still, every household's got to pay for something. So then, what I want to do is go to, now it becomes very important what size water main you have. Because again, if you go to, now I'm going to show you where those allocations are and what it means on page, okay, if you go to page 29, this is how I derive my numbers now. If you go to page 29, is everyone there? Basically, we have 4,095 meters within the township. Of all those meters, there's 1,413 5/8 meters, 1,750 3/4 meters, 727 1-inch meters, and it goes all the way down. Does everyone see where I'm getting those numbers? Then, if you see that little chart on the right-hand side, it's telling you the flow, or what the equivalent flow for that meter is. So, again, we're going the 5/8 equals 1. The 3/4 equals 1.1. Is everyone seeing where I'm getting? So that's 1 times 1.1 times what the rate should be, 1.4 times. So you can see that this whole calculation I'm deriving up is basically the meters is what's driving this. It's driving how much revenue we need based on those meters. And what portion, because now we're saying we're going to base our rates on the AWAA standard that is proportionate based on those meters. Does everyone follow me? So what I did to hopefully on page 15, 16, and 17 is actually provide you with those calculations. So for anyone with a 5/8 meter, there's 1,413 5/8 meters. The current way that we're doing the rates, you can see that it's $13.80. And if you look at that sheet, if you want to look at that sheet on...
You're on page 15.
Yep, I'm on page 15, but I want you to kind of flip to page 18 as you're seeing those numbers of what we're currently doing, and you can see how they're fluctuating. So let's just go through the first one very thorough, and then we can kind of skip over the other ones. Okay, so our first one, I have 1,413 meters. They're 5/8 inch meters, and I have currently, my rate, if you look on that page, is $13.80 per quarter. My new rate would be $8.09 for 25,000 gallons. And then if you go to my ready-to-serve charge, If you go down the page on page 18, your ready to serve charge is $44.10. My new rate would be from $2.60 to $3.12. So my total quarterly bill would be $338.15 if I use $25,000 a gallon under the current system. Does everyone follow me there? Mm-hmm. Okay. Under the new system, if we go to our other little pages, we go to page 19. We want to hold in your fingers 19 and 24. So now for that same 5-inch meter, my ready-to-serve charge is going to be $19.95 times 3. So that's going to be $59.85. My new water is going to be $5.25. And if you go to the sewer side, which we always charged $44.10, now I'm going to comprise those rates of what size meter you have. So it's going to be $17.55 for my ready to serve, and $4.89 is going to be my new per gallon. So my bill is going to be $330.90. So what we're doing is we're shifting some of our cost per gallon to an actual ready to serve charge. We're actually saying, okay, our price per gallon for that gallon of water is actually going to go down from $8.09 to $5.25, and your sewer is going to go up from $3.12 to $4.89. But in this instance, your ready to serve charge is going to go down. Does that make sense to everyone where the calculations are coming from? So for the 1,400 people or 1,400 meters, their rate's actually going to go down by $7.25. If we go to the next one, same methodology for a 3/4 main, and there's 1,750 of those mains, it's going to basically be a break-even proposition. As you start going up in the meter size is where the difference becomes, because what the AWWA is saying is with people with those bigger meters should be bearing the cost of fairness, that their pressure and whatever is coming out of those meters are much more than what the average household is using.
You went just a little bit in because just first blush when I was going through this.
You went, oh, looks great.
If they're using the same number of gallons, somebody with an 1.5 inches, my 3/4 inch is using the same number of gallons every month. Why should their bill be dramatically higher than mine?
Because gallons are going to be the same. It's that someone's going to have to help me out here.
I can help.
There's more water available.
So
Usually as these meters go up, the demand in that facility could be higher. Correct me if I'm wrong, Barry.
You said it's 25,000 gallons for each.
Well, that's
the water doesn't change.
just for number calculation. But the availability of water, volume of water for bigger meter is there. Now,
So are you concerned about peak times or something like that?
The amount of water doesn't change. The 25,000 a gallon stays the same throughout. The 131, those numbers stay the same throughout. It's that allocation of the fixed cost that they're saying that a 4-inch meter is how many times? It's like 11 times of what a 1 meter would produce.
A lot of
Let me check.
Let me interject here for just a second. A lot of when a facility has, a residence can operate off a 5/8, 3/4, or 1-inch meter, because you can get all of the volume through that meter, being a 1-inch meter, that you need in your household.
Right.
You take this facility right here that we're sitting in, for example. This facility is probably sprinklered. It has many uses of water, and we may have a 3 or 4-inch meter coming into this building. At any given time, the flow could be anywhere from 5 gallons a minute through that line or it's capable of producing 5,000 gallons a minute through that same line, because it's capable of passing through a 4-inch line rather than a 1-inch line. So anybody who has a large meter doesn't have it for fun. I mean, their demands on our system are typically a lot greater than your house.
Okay, and I understand, up to a point. But if we're both in the course of a 30-day period of time using exactly 25,000 gallons.
No.
One of those is 1,140
That doesn't change.
hours, and those three.
Ron, let me jump in here. The 25,000 gallons, most of the people that pay water bills that come to these meetings are residents.
Right.
All right. The 25,000 is a means of saying, well, based on, we're raising rates, and what's it going to mean to me? What we tried to show is what does it mean to me in the average consumption for a house, single-family household. If you take the average bills, it's 25,000 gallons a quarter.
Right.
So that's all it's meant to be.
Right.
There may be a great variation between a home that has 8 children versus one that has none. So we're just trying to show everybody that what's the rate increase going to be to me, that if you taking the average of 25,000, here's what it's going to mean to you per quarter. That's all we tried to show. Years ago, we tried to do that. So,
Maybe it's wrong, but the $25,000 gallons, if you look on every line item, those are the same, all the way down your chart. The big difference comes on page 29, when they tell me, AWAA standards tells me that a 2-inch meter, if you stay with me on the right hand, that little box.
Right.
A 2-inch meter should be 2.9 times, which is consistent to ours, but a 3-inch meter should be 11 times. And a 4-inch meter should be 14 times of that 5/8 meter. So I actually wrote in the calculations next to ours, and this is where the difference comes in. If you go to that page again. So we're shifting the burden to those bigger mains, and apparently AWWA agrees that is the equity in the whole system, that they should be burdened with the bigger cost. And if you go to page 18, and you may, for your own, just kind of write these figures in next
sorry,
to
which page?
Page 18, where our quarterly rate is. Just for the water, if 1380 was 1, then the next one should actually be 1518, because that would be 1.1 of 1380. The next one should be 1932, which is right on. The next one should be 2484, which is right on for what we're charging. The next one, the 3435, should be 4002. We're still close. We're in the ballpark. For our 3-inch main, we're charging 4683. It should be 11 times 1380, which should be $151.80. And then the 4-inch main, which should be 14 times that, should be $193.20. So
Go ahead.
So that's what the ABWA standards are. This is supposed to be standardized fairness, equity, and that's what this is trying to say, that we have way undercharged these people forever based on ABWA equity standards.
So maybe what I can't get my head around right now is the fact that since we're raising the fixed cost significantly, but we're lowering the variable cost, and these people with a larger means are using a lot more gallons per month.
Correct.
And their overall
Correct.
cost for water during this time is not quadrupling, as we're showing as 25. Maybe it's going up 20%.
Yeah, I just use the 25% as
And you need to get that number, that 25,000 gallons off your head.
Right, that's just a
because
calculation.
Obviously, if you have a 3-inch meter, you're using a lot more water than that.
So-
It's just a comparable number.
When I first saw this, I thought, geez, this is kind of like going from a flat tax to a graduated tax.
Right.
And the more you make, therefore, the more you have to pay. But in reality, what we're saying is that since they're using a lot more, the rate variance is not going to be that nearly as significant, maybe somewhat, but not nearly as significant, is what I'm looking at when I first analyzed it.
We're reapportioning this, and I'm not saying we're doing this. I mean, this is a proposed action. But we're reallocating costs, and the biggest factor that we need to figure here is who and what get the impact. Where does the impact go? And it's something that we need to discuss. I mean, we need to discuss here, and we need to discuss it at the board level. Bill made a suggestion that we probably have a joint study session with the board before we move further, because if, for example, we'll just pick a number, a third of the township goes south for the winter for an extended period of time. They're going to be gone for 1 to 4 months. They're going to see an annual increase in their water bill and their sewer bill because of this fixed rate.
Right.
The people that stay here will realize the reduction because they're using water on an everyday basis and everything remains constant. So that's an impact. The schools have 4-inch main because they're sprinkled. They're going to have an impact. Now, will it be a great impact? Probably not, because that 4-inch main will service the sprinklers, and hopefully the sprinklers don't run all the time. So you're flushing a few toilets, you're running a few sinks, so their consumption level will be down, so it will not be a proportionate. And township hall's the same way. Anybody with a sprinkler, a fire suppression system in the building has got a 4-inch main on it, or a 4-inch meter on it. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to use it, but that water is available if they need it.
Okay, I'm beginning to understand this a little bit better now, Ted. But when I first look at it, this is what we need to make sure that our residents and people understand, that it's not a matter of we're going to charge you a lot more because we think you can afford to pay it.
No.
And that's. But I mean, at first.
I know,
appearance,
at first blush, and that's why when you try to put one of these things in context, you need to pick a number to start with, and that number has to be consistent, but it doesn't reflect the actual usage of those bigger meters.
So it might be interesting to see, and I'm not saying we do this necessarily, but to see what the average consumption of somebody with a 2 or 3 inch line main would be, and what that ultimate reflects on their bill as far as a rate increase.
We can do that.
Okay.
As you go forward into this packet that Ann passed out, you'll see actual users.
Yeah.
And we will be able to go back and trace the history of those users. That's why I'm saying this is something that we need to take another step. We're not quite there yet, but
And I had a preliminary discussion a couple weeks ago with Ann on this, and I said, well, one of the things that, before I could deal with this, I needed to know is who are the people that have the larger meters, so we could see by some comparison who is going to be impacted and why they would be impacted. And what struck me, and I looked at, and first of all, I want to say I think you did a yeoman's job preparing this. You're not done yet. But I think it's timely to ask my question to solidify thinking on it. As I look at the
Can I just finish up real quick?
But I want to clarify it for everybody.
Yep, go ahead.
When I look at the 1.5 meters, I notice in that category the 1.5-inch meters, which, I don't know, there may be a couple residences that are that size, I mean, single-family residents, but there's a number of condos here. And looking at the way the condos are built, to me, there's usually 3 or 4, typically, condos to a building. And the question I have is, 1.5 meter, do they only have 1 meter in a condo building?
Some do. Some only have 1 meter that serves 4 units.
So here's the comparative example. We have condos that 4 families are living in. And a lot of our condos are at least 2-bedroom, and most a combination of 2 or 3-bedroom, just because they're condos, and they're paying the same rate as we are, and there might be 4 families living in there.
Okay.
So I hope that shows a good example of
Yeah.
what this might achieve. I'm sorry.
Right, no.
And you want to finish, and then we'll...
No, that's okay. And so I just want to let you know that, okay, so when we go down to 3 meter, here's your big, obviously your big, huge difference. There's 24 meters, and then when you go to the 4-inch meter, there's 9 meters. And it was interesting, and that's why I put those behind you. So if you look at pages... So I went to, so I highlighted, we gave you a list of all the 1.5 meters, the 2 meter, and you can see most of the 1 point, so it's not even going to affect really the 1.5. They're going to be happy as larks in a park. There's like $43 a quarter, but
That list starts on page 30. It gives a
Yeah.
breakdown of all of the meters and who
Right.
has it and what size they are.
But it's interesting, and we're not going to go through it now, but take the time to look at all the meters. It becomes a political issue, too. I mean, there are 2-inch meters are a lot of, some township properties, some churches. These are interesting to look at, to how it's going to affect and who it's going to affect.
Do these pages show us the actual usage? The actual.
It doesn't, but we can definitely
can
spot
give you
check
those
and give
I
you
was
those
just trying to
uses.
get an understanding
Yeah.
in my head again, and
Yeah.
you know,
And I
I
think
just
we
don't. I
probably-
would not feel comfortable if we're just arbitrarily quadrupling.
I think we need to do that. I think
Okay.
we need to get a respectable
Right,
or a representative group and see just how it's going to affect them.
right. Like your 3-inch in Township Hall Airport, it's a lot of our properties, the schools. So, yeah, there is, and then 4 inches the country
All
club.
commercial meters.
Yeah, pretty much all, yeah, a lot of them commercial, that
That
need
doesn't
it.
mean that we should charge them more, though. I mean, okay, you see what I'm saying?
That's right.
Right.
Okay.
And it comes down to, it's what the WWA actually thinks is equitable and the right way to charge everybody.
Okay.
So,
Good job, Ian.
I mean, this is the way we're being charged now by the city of Detroit. Same basic principle. It costs us X number of dollars to get X volume of water to your door. It's fixed. No matter whether you turn your faucet on or not, this is what it cost us to get you that water there. We had to run this type of pipe, this size main, and that's the way we're being charged now. And if we don't adapt, then what we're going to do is continue what we're doing right now, where we're basing it on consumption when we're no longer being charged on consumption.
The next obvious question is, any math been done on what kind of additional revenues that this would, by changing the billing system, would generate to the township?
it's
None, we
it's
hope.
zero. Basically, what
None.
it's doing is, it's just appropriately and equitably, we're going to raise the same amount of revenue, and that's why I did this. That's why this whole rate conversion, no matter what, we have expenditures, we have to cover them.
Okay.
So it's just switching the burden and making it
This
equal.
is kind of a revenue neutral.
Right. Oh, yeah, it's revenue
Okay.
neutral for the township. And one last thing
That helps.
that it was important, that, do you understand now, it's very simple. If you guys want to issue debt, you're going to get that money for that debt whether they turn on that water or not. So anything above that can be adjusted, but once that debt goes in, everyone's going to pay for it, and everyone's going to pay their equitable share for it.
I think John will agree with me. It's kind of the same thing that happened with the $40 million sewer bond. They put it on my taxes.
And now,
Now, is that fair and equitable? I mean, we can argue that issue all night. I think it is, because my property value, if it increases my property value through attrition and usage, then eventually I'll get my money back. But on a month-to-month basis, it's a lot more expensive for me to flush my toilet than it is for you to flush yours. And it's just the way it is. And is it right, is it wrong? It's just the way we do it. And we have to pick a way, and I think we're probably in the right direction here. Needs a little work yet, I think. And it needs a little publicity, too, because some people are going to be affected.
Oh, sure.
And we need to get them on
All
board.
right, Ann, are you done with your presentation?
Yep, if you guys
So
don't have
other
any questions,
for Van?
and please,
Or comments additional? John, you had a
I
comment.
have a question for Les. He's our meter expert. So if you look at page 29, all the way to the right, there's the chart. It would be impossible to follow this discussion in the television audience because there's too much
Right.
information, too much reference. But if I just look at this chart, I go all the way to the right, the meter size, the first 3 sizes of meters, and I'm not trying to lead you, you have an open answer here. But where do the households fall within this chart? And you've put in a lot of meters, and you've worked for the department for 43 years, you probably know.
We changed the standards many years ago.
Okay.
It used to be a 3/4 inch line, a service line, and a 5/8 inch meter. When they built a lot of houses over in Pottawatomie Woods on the south side of of Macomb Street. The Board of Water Commissioners changed the specifications because the people on the second floor weren't getting enough water to be flushing their toilets and taking showers. So the Board of Water Commissioners set the standard of a 1-inch service line and a 3/4-inch meter. If you want to go to a larger meter, it's your option to go to a larger meter. And if you want to go to an 1.5-inch line, that's your option. But our standards are 1-inch service, 3/4-inch meter.
Would you say most of the households fall in that category?
Yes.
Okay, so you're talking in your charts, the...
Well, you can see they got 1,750 3/4-inch meters.
Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying, in our charts, it looks like it's very close. The rates for the first three sizes are very close to each other.
Right.
And the only time it gets larger is the commercial service. When the rate jumps like to 11-fold, that's a 3-inch main. The households aren't going to have that.
We got a couple houses on the island that have 3-inch
Well, then they're going to
meters.
get it.
You will look on the back of that chart that Ann has.
They might.
On the back of this, page 30, you go to the back of this thing and it tells you who has what size meters.
Don't read the name.
Obviously.
It goes your 2-inch, and then it goes to your 3-inch, and then it goes to 4-inch. I believe there's just one house on Grosse Ile right now that has a 4-inch meter,
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's not in service yet.
right.
Oh, I wonder where that house is. So really, the rates for the households on the island are going to be very close, almost regardless of what their meter size is. They're
But
gonna be
John, it
very
doesn't
close.
that's why I wanted the clarification, because it doesn't make it right that we should therefore put it to the big guy or put it to the business. So, but Ann answered my question, as did Ted, and the fact that this is revenue neutral, and actually because they're consuming a lot more gallons, and the rate per 1,000 gallons is a lot less under this new system, they're not that affected, not nearly as bad as first assumption might be. So we don't want to sit here and make it sound like, let's put it to them, because there's not very
I don't
many
mean
of
to
them.
do that, but when I look at it, it's kind of like an 8-cylinder car and a 4-cylinder car. The price of the
Bad
gas, well, I think it is, because the price of the gas that's used is going to be whatever the fixed amount is.
Right.
And it seems to me that the 8-cylinder car might be more expensive to operate under fewer miles. So that's kind of what happens here. There's no perfect answer. The real linchpin here is the city of Detroit has gone to $43,000
Yep.
fixed cost. That's a month.
Yep.
And so they raised it significantly. You can presume they're going to raise it again.
Sure.
They're
So-
trying to get to 75% of the total volume. I think.
So somehow, you're going to have to lay that fixed cost off, and it's really out of our control.
Right.
All right, so Ann, I think you did a wonderful job, and you did what I asked. I think it's a great report. The next item on the agenda is to actually raise the water sewer rates. So I just want to lay some groundwork here, for my opinion.
Thank you.
So the groundwork I wanted to lay, for my opinion, is I've been looking at this and thinking about it for a couple weeks since we first talked. And when I saw the volume of data here, anything that this commission does is advisory. And this report would have to go to put the rates in effect, would have to go to the township board. My feeling on it is that I think we need to sit down at some future date with the township board and have a study session on this and maybe some other of our issues. So, I don't know, I'm assuming from the comments, I haven't heard too many negative comments, that I, for one, would like to move to this variable rate structure. The question is when. And tonight, based on our budget and the fact that we didn't increase water and sewer rates last year, I feel we should move forward with the rate increase that Ann outlined on, what page, Ann?
Oh, just the
Early on in
first one?
Report.
It's a long time ago.
It's a blended rate.
It's on 39, it's in the next action item.
It's an action item.
Right.
Oh, yeah. But she has that...
It's the page 4, if you wanted to continue to do business as usual, it's the top page of 14, so we'd raise the...
14?
Yep. We'd raise the water consumption from 722 to 809.
Okay,
and then
so
260.
page 14. So here's my thought. We need to deal with water and sewer rate increase. I'm in favor of moving forward with it. But I think for the variable rate, I can't imagine us sending this to the township board and asking them to approve it with all the other business that they have and spend the hour plus, and it would probably be 2 hours, of people asking questions from the audience on this topic. So I think in fairness to the board, I'm going to throw out that I would recommend that we consider item number 5, that we take up the water and sewer rate increase, move it forward, depending on how you all feel, and that regarding this variable rate, I'd like to see us express interest in it, so that we could arrange for that to go to the board, and whether we do it 6 months from now, change the structure, or a year from now, that we consider it in the future. But it's a very complicated issue. So those are kind of my thoughts, and I throw that out there so that you can move forward with
So
this.
what do you want to do, leave the rates the same right now for further consideration at a later date? Because when the bills go out, they're going to have to be billed.
No, I want to, my thought, I mean, you guys all have an opinion. What I want to do is move forward with the rate increase, that the 10% per quarter, that's outlined on page 14 right now, and I'd like to consider the variable rate within the next year. And have a study session with the township board on this and maybe some other of our issues.
So basically, you're saying you want to move forward with a water rate increase based on the fact we didn't raise them last year or this year yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, that's my feeling. I'm just the
No,
chair,
I think
and I
you're
thought
right.
I'd throw something out there so somebody could argue, make a motion or
Bill,
whatever.
to understand it, you're basing the new rate, at least initially, on a consumption basis? That's what you're talking about?
Yes.
And not a blended rate,
The way we've always done it, right.
the way we've always done it?
Right.
Okay.
Does that sound like a motion?
The chair doesn't want to make a motion. I want to open it up for discussion, or somebody make a motion.
John, you have a good motion, though, you want to do that?
No, it's
don't
not
wanna make
my
a motion?
motion. It's not my motion. No.
What motion would you have, John?
Well, I don't think I can make the motion I like, because the fixed costs have to be passed on. So I don't think I can make the motion that I like. Does that make sense? It should.
Yeah, at this time,
Well,
or
this-
whatever. It's
Where you
gonna-
got all these rate things from was through the American Water Works Association.
That's right.
And the Rural Water Association.
Yes.
Michigan Rural Water.
Yeah.
And that's how this is set up. I would like to see him set these rates in effect. She's put all this work into it to restructure our way we bill, so they should be put into effect. And I know it's been years since any of that's been adjusted.
So we're really, page 39 of our packet is the motion to recommend the township authorize adjustment of water and sewer rates as of April 1st, and be retroactive. But we're really referring to the chart on page 14 of Ann's report, correct?
For,
If we were to move forward with the way we've always done it, that
Right.
number is on page 14 of your report.
right, the way we'd always do it is say, raise, if we continue to do it the way we do it in the past, it would be rate, the water rate would go from 722 to 809. The sewer rate consumption would go from $2.60 to $3.12.
And the way we've always done it, we hope to capture that fixed rate. The idea was that we are capturing the fixed rate
The
in
rates
there,
are
but
set.
in a different way. But
We would just raise the variable rate instead of, and ever touch the fixed rate. The fixed rates, we have it, they are established, will remain the same, and we just raise.
and we hope between the two, we're covering everything.
Yes, and you will.
So it really is the motion to keep it at whatever page that was, would be to keep it as it is, but we need to bring forth this variable and look at it and be able, and the other thing is, I mean, not only say, hey, it's a good idea, we need to do it that way, we have to be able to sell it. We have to be able to sell it to the board, we have to be able to sell it to the people, so that they understand what's going on.
I think, not being a voting member, but I think the motion that needs to happen today, because I'm not sure any of us are prepared to go into this massive adjustment, is a motion that has to happen today, is to increase the water and sewer rates effective April 1st, 2013 to 10%. Increase it 10%.
As displayed on page 14 of the report prepared by the Finance Director.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend to the Township Board to authorize the adjustment to the water and sewer rates of 10% effective April 1st, 2013.
Support.
Moved and supported that we move forward with the adjustments as outlined. Is there any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. And thank you, Ann, for a very good report.
Thank you. And you guys, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call.
What did you say?
If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call.
That was my question.
And please don't go to bed tonight. I can tell I'm going to have questions after tonight.
You might.
Now, before we get into sidebar discussions, and before you leave, Ann, I would like to get a feeling from the board. I, for one, have expressed already that I'm in favor of looking at this new variable rate structure. Is there anyone that's opposed to it? So I assume then most are in favor of it?
Yes.
Should the minutes reflect that we are in favor of moving forward with the joint meeting with the Township Board? Yes. To have this explanation again and to seriously study it over the next several months? Okay? The minutes will reflect that so that we know where we're headed, okay? I think it's a good job and good report. I think it seems to be more equitable, too. Okay, moving on. Dust control, Barry?
Yes, you have before you tonight a proposed action item for this year's or this summer's dust control for the gravel roads in the township. And you'll see on page 42, each year the township applies dust control on gravel roads as part of the road maintenance. In 2012, one application was applied for a total of $31,920 spent for dust control. In 2011, we also had one application at $29,682. D&D Emulsions has agreed to extend their last year's prices for our 2013 summer season at 58 cents per gallon applied. I talked to them. We have been using their product now for 4 or 5 years. Everybody's real pleased with it. So before you tonight is, my recommendation is that we, due to the fact that they're holding their prices from last year, that we authorize or request to the Township Board that they approve D&D Emulsions to apply the dust control again this year.
Okay, you've heard the report. Any questions? So essentially, we're going to keep the same rates as last year.
Yes.
Can I have a motion to approve this item?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend the Township Board to extend last year's contract with D&D Emulsions Incorporated for dust control services for the 2013 season at the rate of 58 cents per gallon applied.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported that we move forward with this dust control item. Any further questions, comments? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next item, Barry, is a security gate at the wastewater treatment plant.
Yes, as you know, we've been doing some security work at the wastewater treatment plant. A few months ago, we purchased some security cameras that are going to be installed soon. And along with that package, we needed a security gate at the plant also. Right now, it just has a swing gate. It's open in the morning when the employees come to the plant, and it's closed at night when they leave. So this is going to make a security gate along with the cameras. It's going to be able, they're going to be able to look inside the building and see who's outside at that gate before anybody comes in. They'll open that gate from inside the facility when they need to open it. So there's been occasions over there where at certain times when we've had high flows or something and somebody's having a problem at one of their homes, a person drives right in that plant, and the next thing you know, Joe's got a guy standing looking over his shoulder complaining about he's got water in his basement or something. So from a security standpoint, that plant should be 100% secure. We don't need people in there that aren't authorized to be in there. So what we did is we went out for bids for a security gate. We received 2 bids, as you have here on page 45. One bid came in at $17,583, and the other one was $20,850. And it was Charles Raines Company's recommendation that we take the low bid from Industrial Fence at $17,583.
Any questions? Entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to recommend the Township Board to award a bid to Industrial Fence, the lowest bidder, in the amount of $17,583 for furnishing and installation of an aluminum chain link sliding gate at the Groseal Wastewater Treatment Plant based on the recommendation of the Charles E. Raines Company.
Is there support? Support. Moved and supported that we move forward with this acquisition. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Motion to approve the Park Lane to Horse Mill water main extension that we looked at earlier today. And you have a cost estimate for $116,298. Everybody saw that. It's really just closing out a loop on Park Lane in the vicinity of Horse Mill.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to go out for bid on this water main extension to eliminate that dead end on Park Lane.
I'll support that.
That's the motion you want? Go out to bid?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay. Moved and supported that we proceed with this project. Go out to bid. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Next item is to extend contract prices from last year's cement contractor for repair of concrete pavement from the G&V Cement Company. I know Barry's talked to them, and they've given us a letter indicating
Yes.
they'll hold their prices.
Yes, they have. G&V Cement was the contractor that we used last year. Myself and the engineer, Raines Company, was very satisfied with their work. And we talked to them this spring, and they agreed to hold their last year's prices for any work that we wanted done this year. So that's basically what you have in front of you.
So we have to accept their proposal, and this would go to the Township Board.
Yes, just motion to extend their contract for another
Motion to
season.
extend their contract. Can I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to recommend to the Township Board to extend GV Cement Contracting Company's contract for concrete pavement repair for the 2013 season.
Is there support?
Support.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You have that recommendation to go forward. Okay, that's it on our formal agenda. Dale, you're here. Is there anything you want to comment?
You got 3 minutes.
I have Mr. Clark on the phone. Dale Ream, Township Manager. Just like to make a few brief comments and throw some ideas out related to the discussion earlier on the variable rate structure. One of the things that was mentioned earlier in the meeting was the winter shutoffs, and if there's going to be a fixed fee amount, if there is a winter shutoff, how will we address that, and is that a policy item that we need to consider? And if there is a shutoff, would it go no charge at all, or would there still be a fixed charge? It's just something that we need to address. The mention of the larger meters, the commercial pipe, and the larger potential larger costs, If we could get together, I'd like to look at the school facilities so we can communicate directly with them so they have some understanding. With the different categories, it appeared that the average saving to a homeowner could have been $7 to $3 a quarter, and then the average increase to a commercial customer could have been as much as $700 to $900 per quarter. And I know, based on the questions, that it had to do with just a math calculation for balancing purposes. But I think that the larger units, we want to have the ability to be able to communicate to those folks what it means in relationship to their current usage, understanding that that would fluctuate as well. Because those are the types of things that will fill the boardroom and frustrate the township board with questions. And as far as the township board study session and having a joint session, definitely. And we can work together and coordinate with staff, and we'll figure something related to our schedules over the next several months. But I think an understanding finance director's comments, Director Sedlock's comments. I've been hearing discussions on this item internally for probably approaching a year or so, and I wanted to be here tonight so I could pull it all together as well. And I understand, and the comment was made, and I think really hit the nail on the head. We're doing now what Detroit's been doing to us. So the criticism that we face time and time again is, why are you raising my water consumption X% when Detroit's not? Well, now it'll be balanced. So I too think it is a wise way to go and move forward. So thank you.
Good. Well, and since you're here, I just want to mention too that some of the long-term capital projects, I know we're not about increasing debt for certain things, but we do have some needs, and I think of Church Road and whatnot. So hopefully by the time we meet, the committee will have some ideas of what to do with Church Road and to try to move it forward. In my mind, it may require go to the voters in 2014 or something, because it's a big project. And
so when the committee meets,
we don't know where that's going to end up yet.
When that Church Road committee meets, I'd like to give an update just as far as, I should say, a historical perspective. We've met with the county numerous times over the past 10 years and looked at a lot of different options and a lot of different things. And there were a lot of headaches and frustrations that came with it. We actually...
I'm glad you mentioned that. So what we'll do is, yet this month, maybe towards the end of the month, we'll try to have our first committee meeting, and we'll include Dale in that meeting.
I would love to attend and share that perspective. And
very good.
We at one time actually had what appeared to be a good solution, but I don't know if that is today, because a lot of folks that we dealt with...
Well, I'm aware of what some of those discussions were, and I think we have some different ideas.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. The chair has no further report or comments. I want to thank everybody for your hard work today from 3 o'clock this afternoon till now, 10 o'clock, so we've had a big day. Does anybody have any comments? We'll start at the end of the table. Ted? Les?
The only thing I would like to say, and on Dale left, is we ought to look at our tapping fees. Those tapping fees have not been raised in years. My personal feeling is those tapping fees should double.
They haven't been raised since 1997.
I know it. And when Eddie Phillips was a manager, we talked to a person out in Pittsfield Township, and he told us what they were paying to tap the water main to build condos. And I mean, it was something like $20,000 for an 1.5-inch line. And we haven't done anything. I think we ought to look into some of the tapping fees that are in this area. And like my recommendation would be to double them.
You're right, they need to be reviewed. In fact, all of our fees that involve the Department of Public Services need to be reviewed, because they haven't been upgrades.
Well, that's a very good point, Les. I haven't even thought about it. So.
I hope you guys don't regret putting me on this commission.
Absolutely. I've been dealing with that myself, but tap fees, connection fees, and so forth for water and sewer. I'd like to see what all those fees are. I hadn't even thought about it. So.
That's all I have.
That's very good. Phil?
No comment.
John?
Bill, I thought of one thing. I recently learned that Jim Morris Sr. suffered the death of his wife and his family, and he had been DPW member of this commission for many, many years, chairman for I don't even know how long, and my sympathy and certainly our sympathy should go out to Jim Morris Sr. and his family, and that's all I have to say.
Well, we'll certainly support that. I never met the gentleman, but your expression is appropriate. Thank you, John.
No comment.
Jim? Ron?
I'd just like to say I really appreciate Ann's presentation, and Ted, your input. It really helped me tremendously. When I went through this, I was just shaking my head and couldn't figure it out. And you really helped bring it together tonight, so thank you.
Jim Budney?
I have nothing left to say today.
Staff?
I'd cough for you, but...
We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn this meeting.
Support.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The meeting's adjourned.